you want to make sure that they are standing straight, but that they are relaxed. Make sure that we are always keeping our tape measure level across the body. How you can use the bones and the anatomy of the body to ensure you're measuring to the right points. Well, if you were doing this on a person, I recommend taking it with just the arm slightly bent. Hey there, and welcome back to my channel where we talk all things technical, practical, and business knowledge for fashion professionals. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to measure a fit model, or in my case, a dress form, so that you can feel more confident in your next fit session or when you're measuring a fit model for size charts or pattern making or garment development in general. So let's get started. All right, so before we begin, we're going to need some tools. You're going to need a measuring tape, a mirror, so that you can make sure that your measuring tape is level. It just makes things a lot easier. Obviously, a form or a fit model, and a place to record our measurements. This is a measurement chart that is available in my shop. You can print it, or you can do what I've done where you download it to a tablet or something like that. So today I'm going to be walking you through some of the main measurements. There's obviously hundreds of measurements that you can take on the body, but these are some of the main ones that are going to be really helpful whether you're making patterns or a size chart or something like that. When you're measuring the form, or if you're measuring a model, you want to make sure that they are standing straight, but that they are relaxed. So if you're measuring a person, you might ask them to take a deep breath and just relax when you're measuring them. Another trick to make sure that they aren't too tense, because it's going to change the measurement, they're like sucking in or standing way too rigid, is putting your finger just behind the tape when you're measuring the body. And you'll notice me doing this as I measure. It's just habit for me. And you just kind of put like the tip of your finger behind the tape measure as you measure to hold the tape together, but it gives you just a tiny bit more room to ensure that you're not holding the tape way too tight, because typically when you're measuring someone, they're going to be a little bit tense instead of being relaxed like we normally would, where, you know, we kind of let our stomach out, or we kind of like, you know, just have more relaxation in our muscles, which actually makes us a little bit bigger. Another tip for measuring a model is you want to make sure that they are wearing skin tight clothing. So if you're measuring a woman, that might be a cami and some leggings. And we also just want to make sure that we are always keeping our tape measure level across the body. So let's start by doing the bust, and you'll see me as I go. I'm going to be putting my finger kind of behind the tape, just like I talked about. And when we measure the bust, we want to make sure that it's level all the way across, and that's why we have that mirror, to make sure that everything is level. If you have a dress form, it's a little bit easier because you can turn it. But you want to make sure that you're just measuring straight across and not with the contour of the bust. All right, and then we can go on to the waist measurement. This is going to be at the smallest part of the torso. And if you're measuring a person, you can have them stand and put their hands on their hip, kind of where they feel like their natural waist is. Have them bend from side to side and adjust their hands if they need to. And that bend point where they bend and they can feel that, that is their waist. And you can mark that on their skin tight clothing. You can use tape, or you can use pattern tape, or anything like that. You can use safety pins, but it's always nice to mark it so that you know where it is while you're measuring, since that's going to be a main point. All right, so then we're going to go and measure our abdomen, and this can also be referenced as the high hip. This is going to be sort of where most people carry their weight in their gut, and it's going to go straight across like the largest part of the stomach and just at the top of the hips. And again, this you want to make sure that your measuring tape is level using your mirror. Mine's off camera. And then the low hip is going to go all the way across on the largest part of the backside, the bum. And so you know the low hip because it's at this lowest point. The high hip is about 3 inches below the waist point. Now, I don't know how much you're going to be able to see of me going down the leg, but the thigh is going to be about 1 inch below the crotch point, and then you can also take a mid-thigh, which is going to be sort of at a more of like in between, directly in between the knee and the crotch. And the main thigh measurement is actually measuring, you can see it right here, the fattiest part of the thigh, or the largest part of the thigh. And then you're going to do the same thing on the knee and you're going to do it right across the knee bone in the very center. And then at the ankle, you're going to be doing it across the ankle bones. And so I want to talk about how you can use the bones and the anatomy of the body to ensure you're measuring to the right points. So just like on anyone, we have the clavicle here. This is a great point. That's going to be where your center front starts. So it's that like little hole in your neck. We have the cervical, which is that bone that's right here at the back of your neck that kind of sticks out. And there's so many other points on the body that you can use. And my favorite tip is to, if you're not quite sure where you're supposed to be measuring to, because everybody's body is different. I've measured tons of people, and so I definitely know that there's lots of variation. And so when you're measuring someone and you're trying to find kind of like that main marker point or that landmark point where you should be measuring from, let's say that I'm measuring the sleeve. This is a great example. You want to be measuring from the shoulder bone, which on a form, it's so obvious that obviously, you know, it's right here, right at the tip of the shoulder. But on a person, it might not be. But if you take your two fingers and kind of press them back and forth, you'll start to feel the different bones that are inside, and you're looking for those like large rounded bones, just like in your wrist. This bone is where you're going to measure the sleeve out to. So you're going to go from the bone that's right here, so this one, and then out to that outside wrist bone. So let's take the sleeve measurement, for example. If you were doing this on a person, I recommend taking it with just the arm slightly bent, so that you are making sure that the sleeve is not too short. So we're going to take it down the sleeve and then to that wrist bone. So again, if this was on a person, I'd be measuring here to this wrist bone. And you want to kind of contour with the elbow. So then we also want to take our girth measurements for our arms. So we're going to be taking the bicep, and this is going to be halfway between the elbow and the underarm. And so usually this is about 1 inch underneath that, the underarm piece. And you're wanting to take the measurement where there's the most girth. And then at the elbow, where the elbow point is, so just where that bone is, you want to go right across that. And depending on what you are creating, you can take it with the elbow relaxed and with it bent a little bit. Same thing with the wrist. Like I said, it's going to be around where that wrist point is. When you're taking the inseam measurement, it can be a little awkward if you're using a real fit model. And so what I like to do is give them the tape measure. I give them the tip of the tape measure, and I say, please put the tip of the tape measure where your jeans would fall. So I'm wearing jeans, for example, and they would just put it on their inner thigh, kind of where the jean point is, right in the crotch. There's like all those seams that all meet up together, and that's where we're going to put it. So we're going to put it right there, and then we're going to contour with the side of the leg and go all the way down to that inside ankle bone. Another point on the body that is very important to understand is the high point shoulder. This is where we're going to make a lot of our measurements and where a lot of things are going to depend on. And when you feel this on the body, it kind of is I think it's is it your traps? It's kind of like those big muscles that hold your shoulder to your neck, and it's right at the base of the neck on that muscle. And if you have a form, obviously it's right where the shoulder seam connects to the neck seam. And for example, if we were taking our high point shoulder to waist measurement, we're going to go over the bust and to the waist, and then our measurement would be here in the center of the waist. All right, so now we are going to take our across chest and our across back, and these are going to be about at the mid armhole, and it's going to be where the front and back break point are. So that's kind of where the girth starts at the chest and at the shoulder blades. So we're going to take it from that seam all the way across to the other side over here. Again, making sure that we are level. Same thing on the back. We're going to go kind of in the mid armhole where that break point is. And if you're measuring on an actual person, you'll be able to tell a little bit better because they'll have an actual bone structure here in the back. All right, next up is our bust point to bust point. If you're measuring on an actual person, you want to, of course, be respectful, but you can ask them to point to where their bust apex is. Here I have it marked already on my form. And if you're using a form that does not have it marked already, I definitely recommend taking the time to figure out where that bust point is, because it's going to be very important to understand as you move forward in measuring and garment development. If you'd like to learn more about measuring, you can check out the link down below where I go in depth in my latest blog post. As I said before, my model measurement chart is now available with over 40 points of measure that are great for grading, size charts, pattern making, garment development in general. It's the same template that I used today. You can check it out at pointsofmeasure.com/shop. It also has an illustrated guide and a text-based guide. And you might also enjoy these two videos if you enjoyed today's video. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.